way I look at it, I've been a government official. So, you know, this notion that somehow or another, someone who is a supporter, someone who's a donor, somebody who's an activist saying, I want access, I want to come into a room and I want to meet people, we often criminalize behavior that is normal, and I don't see what the smoke is.
A top Democratic official saying that she doesn't understand the criticism that surrounds Hillary Clinton's relationship with the Clinton Foundation donors while she was Secretary of State. DNC chair and former Bill Clinton advisor Donna Brazile calling it all, quote, normal behavior for Washington. So is it? Joining me now, Karl Rove, the former White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. Karl, good morning. Good to have you here. I mean, it raises the question, do they just think that this is normal behavior because this is how they've all always done business?
Well, maybe so, or maybe it's just the stupid things that party chairmen are sometimes required to say in defense of their indefensible candidates. Look, remember, Martha, in her January 2009 confirmation hearing, Hillary Clinton was asked by Senator Richard Lugar of Indiana, a respected member of Congress, to avoid all appearances of impropriety with her foundation. That was seconded by the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, John Kerry, both of whom expressed concerns about conflicts of interest with the foundation. And we now know that the foundation was intimately involved in the operation of the State Department. This has never happened before. There's never been a Secretary of State who had this kind of an outside apparatus soliciting large contributions from American nationals and foreign individuals and corporations and governments, and then having a gigantic influence peddling operation that went along with it during their years in the office.
You know, I mean, I guess one of the questions is, if there was so much pressure on her from the Obama administration and from Richard Lugar and others to separate, to put a Chinese wall up because she was Secretary of State and she was going to be talking all the time to countries, and also have people on the foundation side who wanted to give money to support these global initiatives, that there needed to be a wall. Why should anyone think that if she's president there will be any sort of wall between these things?
If she couldn't live up to her sacred promise made under oath to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and memorialized in a memorandum of understanding, if she didn't live up to those things, she promised that they would vet all foreign contributions. She promised that they would reveal all sources of income. We now know that they set up a phony foundation in Canada in order to hide the names of I believe it's $125 million in gifts to the foundation, most of them coming from friends and associates of a Canadian billionaire who gets, during the time that she's in office, State Department approval for a deal that sells 20% of America's uranium supplies to the Russians, puts it under the control of the Russians. So why should we trust her going forward if she couldn't live up to the agreements that she so readily made with a Democrat president and a Democrat-controlled Senate Foreign Relations Committee in 2009?
Yeah, I think a lot of people hear all of this and watch these discussions and wonder about things like the calendar, right? Why is it okay for Hillary Clinton to not release her calendar until after the election? I mean, for those reporters and people who want to take a look at this, and if there's nothing there, then there's nothing there. But as a public official paid for by taxpayer dollars for your salary, why is your calendar not something that people should be able to see?
Well, remember, the Associated Press took 3 years of lawsuits in order to get the phone logs and the calendars for 2 years. The other 2 years, you're right, will not be released until after the election. So, look, she borders on paranoid. That's why she set up the private email server. That's why her people have attempted to block access to public information. Those things ought to be a matter of public record. She has been out of office now for nearly 4 years. Those things ought to be available for public inspection, and they're not. And why? Because Hillary Clinton's afraid of us finding out more things, like the fact that the head of the foundation leaves 148 messages for Hillary Clinton's chief of staff during a 2-year period. Now, we don't know how many phone calls Cheryl Mills actually took from the head of the foundation, but we know the head of the foundation was forced to leave 148 messages. That's a lot in a 2-year period. It suggests that every couple of days the foundation was pinging Hillary Clinton's office for some kind of favor, for some kind of a donor.
But really quickly, Karl, but I mean, what it tells me is that they think that's all fine. You know, they've never held anything but public office for the most part. And so they're like, you know, it's not a big deal. We know all these people. They're our friends. They give us money. We're doing. They think it's all fine.
Right, exactly. And no Secretary of State is engaged in this behavior. And we know how stupid some of this stuff was. I've a commodities trader, a guy who trades in pork bellies in Chicago, gives a big bunch of money to the foundation and wants to be on a special panel that requires sophisticated understanding of nuclear weapons policy and proliferation issues. And they put him on there and then have to withdraw him quickly because he knows nothing about the issues. And he was a super delegate this year at the Democratic Convention for Hillary.
All right. Carl, thank you very much. Good to see you this morning. We'll see you soon.